Take that spot.
Oh, Deb not joining us?
Nah, he is working late today.
Okay.
Probably got to get back and get some work in myself.
It's not on this screen, but we live.
Oh, what's going on?
I don't know, but
We are live.
Mackenzie was down here.
Have we lost the TV? TV had a good run.
Oh.
I see us. We're live. Is that Facebook Live we're on? Yes.
And
Also
YouTube. So we lost a little bit of everything, but we flying bright.
Yeah,
man. We
yeah,
flying
yeah.
bright.
Usually we have a screen here in front of us for those who are just watching, and it's not on right now, so it's throwing us off.
But they can't see it anyway.
That's what I'm saying. So usually,
They don't get to see it
so I'm
anyway.
just explaining to
They don't
them,
know
like,
what you're looking at, man.
So you can see, but not, don't have it right
Oh, got the theme music going.
Yeah.
What's up?
now. Always got to start with your theme music. I'm excited for this.
Welcome to another episode of Above Average Black Men. Yours truly, Chris Bender Sr.
Chris Jr., and as always, here to empower, inspire, and uplift the community. We are missing my brother, Devin Pender, here today. So I'm going to steal his lines. Like, follow, subscribe, share, comment, interact with us, all of that. We need to continue to grow our show. For the first time a couple of weeks ago, we actually had somebody dial in with us on Podbean, and we want to have more interactions like that. So certainly encourage you to follow us and interact with us. But Dad, you want to take it away? Give it.
Yeah, well, we got a special guest tonight, man. And, you know, we're underdressed now, but
Let me take my jacket
we're
off.
underdressed. He got the little flower in there and everything. I got a t-shirt on.
Just my skirt off right there.
That's not me come from the field.
You know,
You know.
I'm like, man, I thought I was ready to go with the t-shirt on. But anyway, special guest, man, good friend of mine, Jeff Jones from Greater Days Ahead, who has an interesting story. And if you remember, almost a year ago, Jeff, way back when we first kicked off, was one of our first guests.
Got you for part two.
Yeah, it was one of our first guests when we were in the
Okay.
studio, man. So,
I thought y'all was on for some time. I didn't know I was one of the first guys.
nah, you were
was
one of the first
one of our
guests. I
first
think you were like
guests.
one or two, yeah. Nah, we were just working out the kinks, man. And it's been a good run, man. Love the show. We got a nice fan base. About to jump into this topic today, but you want to tell a little bit about yourself when you get started, son?
Sure. Yep. As you mentioned, GDA Consulting, which is an agency that helps empower communities, give them sustainability programs and help them thrive and grow economically, socially, and culturally. So we just try and make sure we can provide everything that the community needs so that they can be resourceful in and of themselves and advocate for any change and things that they need in their community. Help businesses thrive and grow and be sustainable, maximizing their profitability, making an impact and a difference in the world. So I've been doing community work past 25 years, also host of a radio show, Community Voice PHL Talk Show, which is on 106.5, if I can plug it.
Yeah. Cool.
And it's an award-winning show. We do the same thing like these brothers are doing. We inform, we engage, and inspire. So I'm glad to be back on the show again, just, talk about what we're going to talk about for today.
Well, time is up now. No, I'm just kidding. Yo, I am fired up on
You
this
have a
topic.
competitor.
So when I do my research, so I talked to like about 25 people today about this topic, man. Male and female, and
Okay.
about the term "man up." The term "man up." What it means and how it's impacting, society. So even part of my males in society, part of my research was I've been watching this Ja Moran stuff too.
Yeah.
Now I've been paying because it's interesting arguments. I've been paying attention to arguments, man. There's different, you have these different perspectives,
Right.
and it's kind of funny because I think they're all out of touch.
All the
Really?
perspectives are out of
Yeah,
touch?
all the ones that
I feel like I've heard some good things.
I think they're just out of touch with the core of what's happening. And I'll go first. I think what they don't understand is even talking to people today, it's embedded in the culture now. It's embedded in the culture now, and it's almost
what was that? What's that? That's embedded now.
the man up. Man up has become a part of our culture. We're a little older and we're kind of different, but for people who live in the street, live in the hood, doing other things, it's almost like when the rappers and started calling BITCH.
Yeah.
It become a part of the culture.
Okay.
So people, it is, and it's used now almost in a similar way. I give you an example. I was talking to people today, and it's interesting because females have one version and males have a different version. Most of the females saw this, and you'll like this. They tied in. They said most of them didn't like the term because they said it didn't validate guys and how they felt. They felt like it was used by females, to not validate guys, that guys are allowed to have feelings too.
To just being tough all the time.
So man up. And they gave some pretty good examples.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the guys, which I thought I was going to hear more of, was almost like when guys use the term, if you love me, you do this.
Right.
That man up is kind of used in that way. Right. Like, I'm going to get Jeff to do it. I'm just going to say man up. You got to man up because you ain't a man.
Yeah.
What the third part was interesting, then we get into discussions, was I asked him, I said, well, I asked the young ladies, would you ever say that? To a guy. Would you say that to somebody you're in a relationship with? Mm-hmm. Most of them said no.
Do you think though? I'm sorry, you finished?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that that's because it's the dynamics of age? Because it's like man up is not what they say nowadays.
That's what I was thinking too. It could mean so many things.
Yeah, I remember back, years ago, maybe when I was growing up, a lot younger, maybe in my 30s. That was kind of the thing. Man up.
But it's come back though. It's come back.
A little bit, but not as much.
We're older now, so we don't hear it as much.
Okay.
But it's back.
Okay.
It's back. Well, everything goes around, man.
I mean, I know everything goes around, but I'm just, as we do work with youth, and I'm in quite a few schools in Philly and Jersey, and I, I just haven't heard that come up, and that dynamics that much. I heard, them say a lot of other things, but man up really, it could be just me.
Because I look at it as, I don't know, manhood's definitely under attack and under a different way, but I don't necessarily feel like I hear man up as much anymore, especially in this era of I just feel like I'm trying to figure out the exact words to say this without trying to get in trouble. But like things are right. Things are a little bit more, I feel like, geared towards a feminist direction now. Mm-hmm. So you can't necessarily even do certain things in terms of boasting up certain attributes of manhood. Like that is toxic now. Yeah. More so if you say man up. Yeah. I think it is more so acceptable for men to be emotional and kind of they embrace that a little bit more now. You might hear it sometimes. I feel like it's two sides of it because there's another side of the internet that's just sometimes where that does exist. Mm-hmm. Where it's like they want men to hold on to certain like being they do want the toxic.
Because what term would you use that? Because it's still the theory itself is still
applicable. Yeah, that's what I said. The theory is there, but they may not say man though.
And one of the questions I ask people why I have an issue with it is because man, there's so many different definitions of man.
That's what I was going to.
There are so many different. Our version is different from like it was funny. Two young ladies got into a debate, not a debate, but they got into a spirited discussion about it. Because one lady was like, yeah, man, I just think, I hate the term, because I think it belittles people and, and I think women use it to hurt guys. Mm-hmm. They say it because they really trying to hurt the guys. Mm-hmm. It's not, no other intention. They're trying to build on. It's like, I got to get this dig in there, and the other girl's like, well, no, I think sometimes, man, if guys need to improve, they do something better. And the lady's like, yeah, but why do you have to say it like that? Mm-hmm. And then it came down to, well, because I said, well, okay, well, let me ask you a question. What's the definition of manhood? Yeah. Because how I see manhood and how a 20-year-old see man, it's going to be totally different.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the foundational challenge of that phrase "man up" in and of itself. Is how are we defining manhood? Because as you mentioned, Chris, there's so many definitions of what manhood is, and when you factor in some of the social special interest groups that have their own agendas in terms of how they want to be labeled, pronouns, and so forth, and nothing against anyone who are holding of the pronouns, but it's just a matter of now that's in play, manhood gets a different definition now. Because now it's just like you can be a man who cross-dress. So you could be a man who
a lot of our athletes.
I mean, right. But so man could go so different ways. So myself as a woman, to me, because my pronoun is he, him, she, him, it, no. And you tell me to man up, I don't want to be a man. So it's just like, how do we navigate in that definition of what manhood really is? So I think that's kind of a challenge. And I know, as you were saying, you hear it a lot, and I admitted that I don't. One of the things I do hear a lot is just be a man. Be a man. And so that's just.
That's the theory. Same
thing.
It
could be a
man up. But it's just like when you tell a boy or someone to be a man, what do you tell them to be? What's the definition?
That's actually a great point now too, because it's certainly convoluted now. It gets lines are crossed where people don't even know when you're saying that.
Yeah, be a man.
Right. I think what's actually funny or interesting too is how, kind of like you mentioned, said generational. It doesn't necessarily sound the same in terms of it being man up. Like right now, it is actually just more so be a man.
Yeah.
And then again, questioning like, what does that even mean?
What does that mean?
I think one thing we've talked about plenty of times on here is like there's been known issues of just like sometimes fathers not being in the home and like how that certainly impacts young men's ability to be a man. And I kind of wanted to talk about something you brought up earlier a little bit about John Morant.
Well, we're gonna get there. We will get there. But I want to follow because it ties in. But and another example of everybody I talk to very familiar with the statement. But I mean, it's current to them. That's why I'm in the back of my head. I'm like, wow. You talking about how and it's not that our demographic work is not that far apart. So maybe it's age different because people I talked to, I did talk to one group of young guys in high school, but most people I talked to were probably in their mid 20s, 20s. So I guess that term would be relevant in that demographic. But it's funny how they were all like, they were eager to talk about it. They were like eager to jump in. I even asked a couple of Caucasian people, yo, what do you think about this term? So it's interesting how you guys was like, well, we don't hear it no more. So that's kind of, but even in theory, though, be a man, and it goes back to definition of manhood has become so distorted because, like for me, a man is somebody who takes care of their family, who handles their responsibilities, who is honesty, personal character, integrity, but I work with young ladies who told me they don't want no dude like that, man. They want a thug. They want a thug. And if I can think back to high school, seriously, the nice dudes didn't get the girls in high school. They went with the, that's kind of how it's been. So, I mean, it's a little more magnified now. But that's something that's been going on for a long time. If you're the nice dude, you're a nerd.
It's kind of like in a quagmire in a sense where you get some women who say they want that thug, but then other women who say they can take care of themselves.
I forgot about that.
We don't need a man, not necessarily like need a man in terms of relational, but just I don't need a man to do this for me. So now you have those women who are just like ultra self-sufficient. They don't need a man to open the door for them or do anything for them. Then you got those other women, when you don't do it, then you're not being a man. So it's just like, that's what I'm saying. It gets that little quagmire. Like, what do you want me to do? How do I show manhood? How's manhood shown? Is it shown in, getting out there siring a lot of children? Is it shown in beating somebody up? Is it shown in, muscles and girth? Is it shown in just, being a thug? So how is manhood shown? And then you're going to tell them to man up, because now there's various different varieties of what manhood looks like. You tell a boy or a man to man up. What do these do?
That's a great question, because it just made me think kind of manhood has drastically changed.
Oh, of course it has.
As our society has changed, because kind of...
Well, I don't think manhood has changed. I think people have convenience. People have convenience altered to fit what they want.
Yeah, sure. Let's go ahead.
True, no, but I was just saying, like, kind of with societal roles or norms, those are drastically changed.
Right, exactly.
Like, to your point of like just kind of basic chivalry. Like some women nowadays don't necessarily appreciate that. And before, there was a point in time where that was part of kind of being a man.
Being a man, right.
So
you
it's like,
okay,
right, those activities are things, but now it's like, does that really entail being part of being a man anymore?
Because it's like now it's like a supposed to.
Yeah.
You're supposed to do these things. Then when you don't do it, then you're not a man. But then when you do it, I don't need you to do it. So it's just like.
But I think that's there's always going to be somebody that's going to be,
somebody's
but there's a lot of people. But I think there's a lot of
more.
And I'm not disagreeing, but I still think there's a lot of women out there who appreciate. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But I think you're still.
I'm agreeing with you on that too, Chris. There are a lot of women out there.
I don't want anybody. We didn't say all women. We didn't say all women.
Listen, I just want to give a shout out to the lady that she definitely is in that category. Loves to have someone who can show responsibility in taking care of her the way she likes to be taken care of. Now I don't want to throw out the word love or the way she want to be loved, because that's another word that could be defined differently. but she likes to be taken care of with the way that she believes she needs to be taken care of. So I believe you, Chris, that says that there are a lot of women out there too who do want a man, and however we want to define that. But I'm just challenged, because when we're having these conversations, if we were to bring in, if you will, various degrees of women, they would really kind of have different emotional feelings about that. And some of it may be, the daddy issue. Some of it may be relational, just in how they dealt with men. But it would just land differently on what a man should or shouldn't do. I would even just throw it out there, just hypothetically, if we had 10 women out here, maybe 5 of them have 5 different definitions of what they want from a man.
Mhm.
I agree. I concur.
And so then how do we then tell our boys to man up, right? It's just
But
like,
see, I think we get back to the basic ingredients.
Mhm.
I think most women, when they say that, it's their personal idea what a man is. I think most women, when they say that, it's who I think you should be.
right.
Not all, most.
Right.
It's not like this is what the criteria is, because there are certain things I think that fit into being a man.
Mhm.
And so I think that's part of the problem.
Mhm.
I'm saying it because you really didn't do what I want you to do. So now
Exactly.
you gotta man up.
Yeah.
Not because you're not taking care of me. You
Yeah.
can be doing checking 9 other boxes.
But then that goes to the manipulative part of it.
Yeah.
Right. Then it becomes social controlling to get what you want, and or a not certain to what I'm supposed to do. So now I'm reacting as opposed to responding. So
Yeah.
somebody push your lady, man up. Okay. So do I go over there and say, hey bro, you pushed my lady, why don't you say sorry? Or do I just punch him in the face?
Mhm.
Which one is going to get the response that she wants? You know what I
But
mean?
that's my point.
Right.
But that's why I think you have to have a baseline that you're
I can't
passing
believe you
on.
didn't stand up for me. And push that man.
right.
Why would you use your words?
Right. Why you talking about saying, excuse me? You pushed me,
No,
knocked me
I don't,
down.
and I'm not disagreeing, but I also think there has to be, a baseline in
Mhm.
which we start to pass on, because this would be our segue to Jean Moran.
Yeah.
I'm hearing the
That's a
different
good
things,
point, too.
and I'm hearing the things about him. And,
Mhm.
and what I meant, some of them that didn't make sense to me was JJ Redick says, well, you can't punish him because Greg Abbott, the governor's talking about guns. I don't know what the correlation is that. I had no idea, but
Yeah.
it was nice anyway.
Mhm.
Somebody else come out and says, oh man, well, everybody can own a gun. So I was explaining to somebody today, but when you're a brand, it's different.
Yeah.
Business.
Some people can run around the street in their underwear
Mhm.
and nobody know about it. But if you a brand, or so 2 seconds soon you hit the curb, man. You on
Yeah.
They're following you. Yeah.
It's going by.
I mean, so and I think, then I was listening to somebody today, and I think this is why I think sometimes they miss the mark. Oh, well, and he went for it. Wow, maybe because he really don't want all that. He's trying to purposely say, he's going down. He's trying to say,
You just walk away.
Yeah, but I think he, to me, and as somebody who grew up in the hood, and you knew people, peer pressure is huge.
Yeah.
What your friend,
Yeah.
if you got a group of friends,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people, what they friends think about them means more than right and wrong.
Mhm.
You hear it all the time, man. How many times, people kill somebody and somebody tag along with them because, I love them, I'm gonna stand by them. How many times a mom, kid will videotape killing somebody, that not him. So I think that's the part I think people feel, is I think he's just not a leader. And you're trying to, I think he just wants to fit in,
Mhm.
and he doesn't want to leave that culture behind.
Mhm.
I think that's what the problem is. The problem is he just can't let go. What they think about him means everything else he has. Now, I'm not going to get into the daddy relationships, or I don't know.
Right.
But then somebody said, my last point, well, what would you say to him if you was his father? Well, nothing, because he wouldn't listen to me. Let me tell you something, man.
That's what somebody said.
Yeah, that's what just
Yeah.
but because he make more money than I make. That ain't got nothing to do with it. My hand still fit around my son's neck. We gonna have this conversation. And I'm exaggerating,
I
but
don't know about
what kind of parent are you if your kid gets to a point and they because of money? Now, they been stop listening. You're gonna do money. Because everybody with money is not disrespectful to them. How many people get, my mom, my dad? So I just thought it was odd. His response was, how you talk to him, because he, again, the material thing.
Yeah.
Because he makes more money than I make.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge when you have people ask, how would you talk to him if that was your son? Because, of course, me and you, Chris, we have children, right? And it's different because we raise our children differently from how his job was raised, because those conversations would be dramatically different. My son happens to be named Chris as well. Yeah. Chris would not do anything like that, because I've had conversations with him, and he and I don't want to say knows better, because I don't want to be judgmental in that approach, but in the context of how I raised my son, he would know better not to do that, not being influenced by his friends in a space where doing things that is out of character just for social acceptance. Because I think that's a lot to play with in John Morant too, because he was, in a lot of ways, his father did a lot of great things for him, and a lot of things you could tip your hats off to him. But it appears that there are some things he was sheltered from. And if you're sheltered from that, then when you're around these other people who doing things, and you want to be accepted by them as well. You want to say, see, I'm just like you guys. I'm just like you guys. It was a while ago, somebody, Shannon Sharp was talking about Ja Morant. And again, take it for what it is, because Shannon Sharp has his moment. His moment. But what he was trying to tell Ja Morant, and, take it for what it is, truth or not, he was telling Ja Morant, you're not a gangster. You're not a thug. That's not you. Don't be that.
Yeah.
Don't try and be something that you're not. Continue to, you tell him, be a good basketball player, yada, yada, yada. And it comes to light that it appears that Josh trying to be something that he's really not.
Yeah, but it goes back to what you value more.
Right.
And,
to your point,
and I
yes.
say that all, shameless plug in the book, What You Feed Grows Stronger. But no, but that is. And I think if I listen to things about him, about how they purposely put him in these places for success and how he would go back.
Yeah.
And you hear me say this a bunch of times. Leadership is not about your title, it's about how well you influence somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently his friends have a certain level of influence
because
he cares more about what they think than anything else. So that's what it comes down to. And that alone make a lot of people try to be something they're not.
Right.
Because I want to fit in.
Right.
I know, I'm not a thug, but I'm hanging out with Jeff and Chris, man, and the girls and all the stuff, man. And, I'm going to try to be one because I don't want people to think, I'm acting white or, I'm a suburban, all those things that come along with it. So I think that's powerful. And that's the part I think people are ignoring is that wherever you want to talk about his value system, that's up there. That lifestyle or that portrayed lifestyle is high on his value system.
So you're saying the lifestyle he's showing publicly is up there?
No, the one he shared with the guns and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He has a high value for that.
Yeah. Okay.
He has a high value for it because he chooses. It ain't been a month. You just got out. I mean, he fake him out. And then I didn't see the video. They said his boys in the background.
We tried.
So no. So it's not. So you can't even blame his boy in the situation. But he values that. He and that's the problem. It's almost like it's guys who are very good athletes, but they don't go to practice because instead of trying to be an athlete, they want to be a rapper, they want to be a thug, they want to hang out with these people because they think that's what everybody wants. And it's when you don't have something and you see people have what you want, whether it's affection, whether it's money, you gravitate to that unless somebody's there to say, yo, you can have this but the right way. And I don't know the relationship with his dad, so I can't.
Right, yeah, and we really don't want to get into that, but I want to tease that out a little bit, even though we're not yet. Man up, right? So with that being said, Chris, it's like the value system that he's akinning himself to now is higher than maybe the value system that he should have. So, as a father, as a man, where did he miss that at? You know what I mean? Because it's like I get what you're saying. Like he's valuing this gun-toting, rapping, hanging out with the boys lifestyle. But I'm believing that if a solid definition of what we hold as men of God was given to him, where did he miss it at? Where did he miss that connection?
Probably, I would say just the basketball, just probably giving too much credence to
right. And so that's what I'm saying.
Because I think it's a culture of this out there where it's just like they look past some of the things that are there.
Exactly.
Like, he's just so good.
I go back to that, and I know what the culture is saying, but he has scripture tattooed on. So apparently, and I was watching something today, and his grandmother was religious, and he would call her whenever he felt like things were happening to him. To your point, it's one thing to pass words on to somebody.
Yeah,
it's one thing to pass lip service to something. It's another thing to live it out in front of them. It's another thing to say, yo, you need to embrace this more than you embrace that. And you don't see it a lot in this culture. And I don't know why, because, some of the pundits and talking heads, because parents, that becomes the parents, money train. And that, so I don't know. I don't know the situation, but you can't just talk the walk. Talk the talk. You got to walk the walk. And, money. There's some people who put such a high value on money, that they kind of, it happens in corporate America, it happens in churches, that they kind of park their values and they at the door.
Yeah.
They'll sacrifice what they really believe because the money. So I can park my morals at the door for a little bit because just a little bit. Just a little bit. Or I'm thinking about the bigger picture. Why do you want to justify it? And that happens in all walks of life. And unfortunately, parents do the same thing with their kids.
Yeah. But then when they do that, they're raising boys.
I'm not disagreeing, but if I just see dollar signs, if I just see, And I'm looking at the end game is we all gonna be well off. Like, first of all, you got to stop telling these guys they're saving their whole families. You got to stop saying that. You're putting that pressure on them, right? You know, and I hear, and God bless his way, Shannon Sharp says this, yo, but you putting pressure. These young men are not that mentally tough. Right. They didn't grow up on the farm chopping firewood. You know, they didn't grow up in the 70s and 60s being called nigger and all kind of stuff like that. Yo, to your point, they're sheltered.
Right. They've been pacified. Yeah. They've been pacified through athletics.
It's to Chris's point. Yeah. So this kid has been spoon-fed. Now you tell him you got drafted. Oh, you're responsible for the whole family now. You got the next 8 generations now. You know, that's a lot of pressure to put on them. And you give them that without giving them the tools to be able to handle it. Because they're not preparing these. You know, we talk about them. They're not preparing these guys to handle that. It's like people who get married. You spend so much money getting ready for the wedding that you don't pay attention to the actual marriage.
Yeah.
Great day. Yeah. And then the next day, y'all ain't know each other. But we had a good time.
Yeah.
You know, now 8 kids later and all kind of stuff, you trying to figure stuff out. So I think, you know, and that's where that thing Man Up comes into play. Because if I'm lacking something, if I'm lacking validation. And I find it with the people that you know, unscrupulous or maybe different culture, don't believe what I believe, and they validate me, and I think that validation is in jeopardy, and they say man up, yo, I'm in. I'll be a man because I'm gonna do it because I'm hungry for it. It's the same, and I don't mean disrespect. It's like somebody who stays in a domestic violence situation. You know what's wrong, but it's something in there that you just don't want to let go of.
Could be a bit of self-worth situation.
It could be. You know? It could. Oh, there's a lot. For him, and as amazing as it sounds, it has to be. Because look, man, I ain't give. He didn't make. He lost so much money.
Yeah.
And now they talking about trying to get him banned. They talking about trying to get him banned, or at least they're saying 20 games a half a season.
It's just what John Morant did was kind of representative of our culture, honestly. Like I think
I've heard that too.
Because
that's big talk. Yeah,
it's a bunch of kids out here that are doing that same dumb stuff. It's just John Morant, in the position that he's in, we were able to see it on Instagram and know that he has influence over people. But unfortunately, it's a generation of kids that are doing that and actually think that that's part of being cool or being perceived as.
And that's going to be part of the challenge.
Yeah. But it goes back to what you said. It goes back to what season we saw. What is the definition of man? They don't know. So it is like on-the-job training. So they're learning, and they're learning from things that influence them. They're not gonna learn from the trash man who goes to work every day and comes home because there's nothing flashy about him.
So let me put this out there because Chris Jr. made a great point, and I wanted to see if we can tease that out in the time that we have, right? Young guys are seeing this in girls, but we're just going to say young guys are seeing this, right? Just keep it with the young guys for a moment, not being gender specific or neglecting our young girls. But young guys are seeing this, and they're saying, oh, man, y'all picking on y'all. He keeping it real. This real in the hood. Y'all know. And on top of that, though, on top of that same comments coming from our young folk, we'll get someone who's influential, older elder say, yeah, man. Just let him be, man. It's the NBA, man. Y'all know how it is. People doing words, yada yada.
But smoke. Smoke. That's why I don't watch the show.
Right. So I'm saying that to say that we'll have those loud voices telling our young people it's okay to express yourself how you want. John just got caught.
But the problem with it is it's life or death.
See, our society, our young people don't live in that life or death paradigm.
Well, you know this. You know, and I know. There's certain cultures when you don't pull a gun out unless you're ready to use it. And when you start flashing and you have a gun, people know or they want to approach you different now.
What's the word they used to use? I don't know if they use a stunting, faking.
If I know you got a gun, and I know we got an issue, I'm approaching you totally different now. I'm gonna get you before you get me. And he don't know that kind of
right. That's why I get back my Shannon Sharp.
Remember Plexico Burrs?
Exactly. Yeah. Plexico Burrs. What is his name? Clinton. Not Clinton. Portis. What is it? Clinton Portis. Clinton Portis did the same thing. Yeah. They're not about that life, and again, that's what Shannon Sharp was kind of trying to tell John. You're not about that life. You're not about that life to be carrying guns, acting like a thug. Maybe he was hanging around Dylan Brooks too long.
But the way he did it is funny because but the way Shannon Sharp did it was wrong. I get that. No, I'm not disagreeing with you, but that's a phone call. Because, and I say this, it was funny. The group I just finished, I said the same thing about communicating with respect. Once you embarrass somebody, they ain't paying you no mind, man. once you tear them down and make them feel less than,
Mhm.
and because he got the we in crowd in the background.
Yeah.
We ain't got to take that.
Yeah.
We ain't, they ain't got nothing invested in this game at all, but it's we. So that could have been handled. I agree with what Shannon Sharp said, but it could have been handled differently. Then you're on there with Skip, who's a moron, this probably go viral, who puts up this facade because he had a black nanny. So he thinks he's in touch with black. He kills me when he tells the story because he had a black nanny. So now he's all in touch. But then the next breath, he's kind of killing him. But I want to get back to that's where that man up thing with being a man comes in, because you want to impress. It's like if and this is a whole different segment. If you with some woman and you give her everything you have, you doing everything right, and she says man up, that's like being punched in the stomach.
Exactly, because you don't know what to do after that.
Right, but my point is that's still being used to instigate. I don't know if people trying to use it to inspire people, but that term is still do better.
But that's manipulative.
But in her mind,
I'm trying to inspire you. Man up.
Now you confused, like, oh my God, I got to man up. What does that mean? So I get it.
And she don't know. She was like, I want him to do better. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not
man up.
That's not making him do better.
And I don't know if the context of this show that you guys talk about, faith, what we believe.
Fire away, man, come on.
Being a man, a man of God, doesn't encompass abuse, doesn't encompass neglect, doesn't encompass self-grandizing. It involves the value set by the Word of God, making sure we honor God first, like Ecclesiastes. Keep God's commandments. That's the whole duty of man. And he'll bless those things, whether they're good or evil, after that actions that you have. So we set our parameters around how are you reading the scriptures? Are you helping the homeless? Are you helping those less fortunate? Are you doing that's being a man?
But that's our standard today.
Right, that's our standard.
Today it is because I got a tattoo on. Because I got Psalms, I got a Psalms tattoo here. I'm just being honest.
That's
and I have a scripture address tattooed on my arm.
Too many people we allowing to define it at the moment.
But that's what we talked about
earlier is like how we kind of allow for women.
It goes all the way back to the beginning.
Like this.
But that's why somebody has to establish the baseline. What you just said right there needs to be a baseline.
Yeah.
The baseline needs to be established regardless of what other people are saying. Regardless of somebody coming in and saying, it's like when you guys, when I was raising you guys, and I would miss stuff to go to games and stuff. And people were like, man, you don't take all that. How you gonna tell me how to raise my kids?
Exactly.
But you miss them because of this. Yeah. My day is over. I won't get discovered in the gym at this point. It's done.
Right.
I'm putting time. But you would hear that. Or man, you're not going. You going. You hear that kind of stuff.
Right.
And your company. You work hard in your company because you're trying to build something for your family. And so I think that stuff it still plays a huge part because nobody's establishing the baseline. And when nobody's established a baseline, for some people, and I say this all the time, I think the biggest problem we have in this country is we're suffering from an identity crisis. Folk don't know who they are. And when you don't know who you are, you're always going to fall prey to what somebody thinks you should be.
Exactly.
And that's when that phrase becomes so powerful now, because now, when the last time you heard somebody break down man like you just did? Think about it. You don't hear that. You may hear go to church.
Right.
You may hear have faith, believe in God. Oh, turn it around real quick. We were joking about this yesterday. They killing Mark Jackson about making him the Sixers coach because they told him he's gonna bring his faith into the locker room. So, I mean, that's like this. And I'm hearing some people saying some crazy stuff, because they know he's a Christian. So I mean,
listen. If you're Sixers fans is out there, y'all should want Mark Jackson. Y'all should want Mark Jackson as a coach because the best game Harden had when you listen to that Tasha Cobb song, that's the best game that he had. So y'all might want him.
But I think that's the opposite of what you said. People don't want to give faith any space. Now, if and it's ironic because if you talk about Buddha, Confucius, or anything else, people okay with that.
Yeah, they'll quickly walk back to Christianity. But then they'll make it all inclusive with any other faith. And I stand firm on the Word of God. I'm unapologetically a Christian, a man of God, and Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. So I'm unapologetically a Christian on that stance. So I say that to say that when we talk about faith in certain contexts, like if John Morant was all of a sudden come out and say, I gave my life to Christ, people would probably come after him, like, oh, why you gave your life to Christ all of a sudden? Why you do that? You know, and then other faiths would try and ease in it. So it becomes a battle of whose God is bigger, right? And as a Christian, we shouldn't be fighting that battle per se. We should be giving and understanding what the Word of God really says and let people stand on that, because there is a foundation that can lead to righteousness and lead to a better life. And I can't see just getting a tattoo making a difference. Just like when a rapper or a celebrity or whoever, particularly a rapper, has a song "Shake My Booty" thing, and then he gets his award and say, "I want to thank God." That didn't come from God, nor was that a blessing from God.
But this goes back to this is what we lead. It's not popular to be a man of God. You know that.
It's not.
How many times I've addressed some people say, "You're supposed to be poor. You're supposed to be weak." How many times you got to tell people like, don't get this twisted. You got to say that to people, because that is a belief, especially when it comes to our young men. Our young men believe that.
Yeah.
That if you are a Christian, if you're a man of faith, you're supposed to be a punk. You can't be this. You can't be that. That's just the way it is. And part of it is because, again, there's nobody talking like we're talking.
Right.
And just the way I was watching something, this best sports show in Philly, and I heard somebody say something, and I thought it was the most ludicrous thing, and he said it like it was a fact. That Steph Curry, the reason why Mark Jackson got fired, because when Steph Curry hurt his ankle, I told you this yesterday, he went to the church and Mark Jackson made him fake, like he was healed by faith. So he went out and played on him. I'm like, you really? And he said it like this was pure fact. And he said, like, that's why they don't want a man of faith. Like, yo, I thought this was about winning the championship. Right. These are grown men. You think it's like Colt, you gonna get them, you gonna run the play and they all gonna be converted. Yo. 22 switches, they all come out and say. So, but I think that's the problem. And part of it is because, when you start talking like you just got finished talking, you're teaching people to be individuals. You're teaching people not I'm talking about this phony church thing where pastor tell you everything. And that's what people are afraid of. And you go to our young men, you're talking about discipline. They nothing in their lives are telling them about discipline. Nothing in their lives is saying discipline, and we were talking about restorative circle. Everything is punitive. It's either black or white. If you're an A student, you get all attention. If you're doing not delinquent, you get if you're in between, you on your own.
Yeah. It's like the C student never gets no attention.
Yeah, you're on your own.
A student get the scholarships, the D student, the F student get the mentoring and the tutoring. The ones in the middle.
But that's where that term, that philosophy, that term, whether it's be a man or man up, it becomes huge because it's being used as saying you have a glaring weakness. It's more so saying this is what you're not. To me, when I hear it saying this is what I'm not, that's what I would hear.
So not to be picking on the organization, but it's a prominent organization in Philadelphia with that same name, Man Up. I don't know if you're Man Up PHL. So if
not to pick on these game away.
I'm not throwing darts, but I'm just saying that to say that it lends itself, and it's great work that they're doing. Solomon Jones, shout out to one of the forefront runners of that organization. It lends itself to being challenging, because if you're telling men to man up, and that's part of your organization, of course, motto and name, then it's out there in society. Now it becomes, like you're saying, Chris, more commonplace for people to say man up because of the organization. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Do I got to serve more in the community? Does that make me a man? And it doesn't even have to be anything of ill repute. But if, again, we're telling men to man up, is it service oriented or is it character represented?
But I think it's both. I think you can be a lousy person and still serve. So we got to stop thinking that just because somebody serves that they're good people. There's many drug dealers who get involved in stuff, man. I'm just saying. So to answer your question, it's not just because you got people serving. Because typically serving it's not the serving that changes people. It's the relationship that's when you notice. And what is their teaching component to it? I say, I was talking to them the other day, and they were talking about this organization. All these men come out for all this stuff. Okay, cool. So how many actually show up for this portion of it? For the church portion of it? Well, no, it's okay. So what teaching is going on when they show up for this other stuff? And I'm not talking about biblical stuff. Are you talking about servanthood? Are you talking about being a better husband? Are you talking about being a better father? Are you talking about what happens if your kid ain't playing sports? Can you still be a dad? Okay, so is this about the sports?
Right. And I get that, and I'm totally rocking with that. I guess one of the things I wanted to land at, though, is it performative? Is manhood then looked at a performative thing? because I would like to believe it would hold true for you, and I'm saying this for myself, that a lot of the things that I taught my son had nothing to do with performative anything.
Yeah.
So therefore, me, if you will, quote unquote, being a man to my son, I didn't have to do anything. But society is just like you mentioned in what we're talking about. If it's akin to being performative, then that's how manhood is seen. If we do something that's non-performative based, it's just like, that's not being a man.
But we have a tendency to do that. We think, and we think as long as we give men something to do.
Right.
But there's no transformation. If I got stinking thinking when I sign up and you not, I still got stinking. I mean, that's my issue with a lot of organization stuff we do. You want to get together and do stuff, but then God, I'm with you on Saturday. We got this down pat. Sunday through next Friday, my life's living hell. But we Saturday we cool. We singing kumbaya. We giving up turkey dinners. So that's all fine. Or I'm yucking up with you, but I'm going to beat my wife.
Right.
So there has to be a mentoring, discipleship, teaching component, and there has to be a baseline, and it shouldn't be based on performance. I agree with you 200%. If I had my way, it'd all be based on faith, but I know everybody's different, because I know it works. You can say I know it works.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you.
And I think when you don't believe in anything, you believe in everything. I do. I think people who don't believe in anything, they succumb to conspiracy theories, all kind of crazy stuff.
Something has to work for it.
Because people understand that and they dig in. If I know you don't believe in anything, and it sounds good.
It sounds good.
But I think it comes back to that term. That's why that term has so much power, because people don't know who they are. And if somebody else comes along, we were talking about today, one of my clients from last year, he was telling me, he said, look, man, you got a certain group of people paying these young boys $1,000 to hit people. And everybody said, man, $1,000. I said, nah, think about it. If I'm broke, I never had anything, and you put $1,000 in my hand and take me to Cherry Hill Mall, that's a big deal. But we don't look at it like that. We look at it from our own lens, our own perspective. But to somebody else who doesn't have, it's the same thing with definition. Your son is blessed to have you. I was blessed to have a dad who made sure I understood the basics of it. But that's not the place now.
Right.
You don't get that anymore. And you got some teachers out there who screwed up. They don't know. Yeah. You got female teachers screwing up our boys because they don't know.
So who do we think makes the bigger cry of that term manhood problematic? The men or the women? No disrespect to our sisters out there, just taking that conversation.
That's his disclaimer.
Yeah, I got a bit disclaimer because I don't want you guys to get emails, but don't bring that guy back on your show no more. You bashing women.
No, but that's what this show is about. This show is about talking about things like this because nobody else is. They're not challenging the politicians that made them what I voted for yesterday to have these kind of conversations because you're not, okay, you want to get guns off the street. Until you deal with the people who shoot those guns, you're wasting your time.
Yeah.
Because you have to bring your gun down, we give you a gift card thing. I ain't bringing no brand new guns, man. They bringing rusted 22s, they're bringing swords. I'm not against it. But I'm saying, and if you just said it earlier, if you're not working on the mindset, they just get a different tool.
Yeah.
And I think that whole thing, Man Up, if you look at, we talk about it all the time, social media. Social media dictates to a lot of people what manhood is. Music. There's not a whole lot of
media, all that stuff. Because they put this picture out there, like what they think sells, entertaining the women.
But it does sell.
It does sell, right? You see that they get into that, and I think it just kind of reflects
I'm
society
after that. I'm about to cross the line right now.
The men want to just be what they want, what they see.
I'm going to say this now and then cross the line. People love Tyler Perry. Okay. You got a dude dressing up like an old. I'm just saying, I'm just saying that concept works for people.
But see that,
they wouldn't pay to see a man in a role doing something positive. That movie ain't selling nowhere.
But that goes back to, like I was saying, how the definition.
And I'm not against Tyler Perry. Please don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying that's what sells.
But it goes back again what we were talking about earlier, the definition of manhood, how it's skewed based on special social interest groups in our society.
Yes.
Tyler Perry, a big brawny, if you will, man, when he's dressed like a man, right? But now he dresses like Medea. And so now you have boys and even some girls who are not sure of their sexuality. So now it becomes gender fluid. So now everything's get converted and become fluid. And now it's just like, what's a man?
And you know what else about the whole thing, those two characters that just really dropped me crazy? he's more aggressive and assertive when he's Madea than when he's playing the role of a regular man.
And that's what makes it
If
funny.
you ever check it out, when he's
That's what makes it
Madea,
funny.
when he's in whatever his role is in the movie, he all laid back and but when he's Madea, he like, yo,
Punching people out.
yeah. It's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
So and I'm not down on it because it's entertainment. But the point I'm making is where's the investment in the positive stuff that's teaching our boys how to be, man, like I'm not against it.
It don't sell.
It don't sell.
It's just like even right now. Think about it. Now, for the three of us, men of faith, right, and the music that we listen to grounds us in our faith. Powerful music. How come it's not?
Because we bootleg. No, I'm just
the point is, if we were to release a song again, shake that booty thing with a nice beat to it, everybody be like, "Oh, that's the
But
jam."
even like thinking about a movie or a TV show, like how many people gonna go see a mild-mannered,
They don't.
a mild-mannered action
Right,
movie?
right.
Cut.
But if you go back, and I say this all the time, The Simpsons was the longest running fatherhood show, Homer Simpson.
Mhm.
If you look at the shows, other than the Cosby's,
Mhm.
come on, man. My wife had children. All he did was ridicule his son the whole time, talking about how stupid his son was, and people loved that show.
Mhm.
Good times. It went out. Their name was so far from that show because every episode something bad happened. They couldn't get 2 inches ahead. I mean, a lot of these shows with black families are just negative.
Mhm.
It's just power. And I'm not knocking it for people to watch it, but it's negative. You got the Tyler Perry, the Oval, the black the president's wife is black, and she gets as scandalous as yo. I mean, so we're constantly bombarding our kids with messages. So when you say man up, that's what they see.
Yeah.
And that's what they look. That's the barometer. That's the baseline set for our young men and our young women because they look for guys like that.
That was actually the
That's
point
what I
that
was going.
yeah,
That's what I was saying. That who does more harm, saying that men or women? Because of course, some of the guys say, "Yo, young boy, you got man up," but is it more damaging when a woman says it?
I think it's more damaging when a woman says it to a man, probably, just because, especially now, it's like men pretty much do a lot to entertain or try to chase women.
Yeah.
You see it all the time now.
Yeah.
So I think
But
if a woman says that she's into the certain type of guy, some of these guys try to be that guy.
That guy, yeah, try to be that guy.
Hence man up. See, hence man up.
Man up. Yeah, I get it.
Or be a man.
We'll change it because I'll say it's be a man because it's even in today's culture. When they say be a man, I think something that you mentioned in reference earlier is just how it's more like it's performance based.
Yeah.
How much money are you making?
Yeah.
Can you buy this? Can you take care of these things? So it's like when you hear kind of that's what women are looking for. Guys kind of without any guidance.
Exactly.
But no, without any guidance, they think like, that's all I need to do to really be a man.
Well, because again, this goes back to your value system. And if that's what you think women go after, and you want to get the prom queen, you want to get the cheerleader, that's what you do. So if nobody's helping you balance the value system, it's that, and we live in a time where it's instant gratification. This is not now, that's why so many people play the lottery. I want it now.
Don't want to work.
No fault divorce. We ain't gonna work this out. We'll get divorced. No fault. I'm just saying, it's everything instant coffee. We got Mike. Everything now is instant, and I'm not against it, but there is no work. And I'm not saying everything has a reason. So if you had to do that, you had to do it. But you know what I mean? Yeah. The average person, we do things now because it's instant, it's spontaneous. And if you go back to Man Up, that's growing because it looks, all they glitters is like gold. You know what I'm saying? And it looks like it's gold. It's fool's gold, but they look at John Morant and people argue, and the same people who argue don't realize the amount of money he's losing. He's losing millions of dollars. He's never going to get back. And so you arguing about his rights. He could be banned. So I think
works for a company
until you get back.
I don't think he will be banned. There'll probably be some hefty.
Well, not banned, but he's going to get 20 games. He may get a half a season. Because the underlying story, real quick, is now they're looking at. I was reading today. It was really interesting. I read it and they talked about it on TV. They're looking at the whole Grizzlies organization because 2 years ago that was supposed to be the prototype organization. And they're saying that's the reason why they got rid of Brooks. Because him and John Morant, they just went like a whole 180. They like it down. They went from the prototype young guys that was going to be the face of the NBA to like, yo, we don't know what we got here now.
Right. Yeah.
But I think we have to get back to the baseline. We have to get back to what is man up. You know, and it's not so many people define it. That's the problem. You both said it. You got. I say this all the time, and some women are going to say this and get upset. No woman's going to teach a boy how to be a man. Every boy's going to find some man to affirm manhood. I don't care who he is. Just like every girl is going to find some man to affirm what a man is. That person she's married. So and a lot of single moms do a great thing. I'm not coming at single moms. But what I'm saying is men are a key ingredient to success in society. And my last point is when you go to conquer a nation, you take out the men. They're not taking out the women. When they went to get trucked, they got the men because they knew if I take out the men, now it's a pass and least resistance. And I'm not saying it to be chauvinistic. I'm saying, but we've kind of forgotten that now. That we want to make, you should. No, when they go in, they conquer the men. Because if I take out the men, that's the strongest resistance. So I know somebody's when the woman came, but it was,
the homemade tribe's gonna come at you.
No, but I'm just saying, though, and I think we've lost sight of it. So we have a group of boys right now who are kind of without a compass, and it's like having a compass, but you on the equator. It don't work. It just kind of goes because it's magnetized. So
I think a point that we've made on the show before is like, your kids more so watch what you do and let's listen to what you actually say at times. And like that's extremely prevalent and important when it comes to raising a young boy and have him be a man. Like,
but it goes beyond kids. Present as we close, because y'all can close.
No, because it's just like you need to see it. Like.
But it takes a whole community. It's not which is why I still do what I do. Why you do what you do. It takes a whole community because under that assumption they're getting it at home, and we know that's not true. We know that.
And there's a challenge with the misguided expectations on what we're placing on our young boys and even some of the older men in terms of what their responsibilities in society, what's expected of them. If all the time we're expecting of them to do things that are performative, then it leads them away from character building opportunities. And when those character building opportunities go astray, then so too do the values. And then when the values are shaken, then it goes into cultural relativism. What works for you works for me. And no one has a solid foundation. So it has to get to a point where we have to land on not just what manhood is, but what is the expectations that come with that. When expectations are skewed, then so too are the values. And then
I think the whole world went to the hell in a handbasket. They started giving out participation trophies. No, I'm only joking.
That's another show. I'm
only joking. But we can close, man. You got to go. We got 7 minutes. No, he knows that's my pet peeve. I can't, man.
I have not gotten a participation trophy ever in my life, and any trophy I got, I earned it, and I felt good about that. So I live.
So we got 7 minutes. We took up a lot of time. So what are some things that you see, that can kind of help begin to turn the tide? Because it's not going to turn tomorrow. This is something. This was sown through generations. It's going to take generations to turn it around, but it also is going to take an awareness and recruiting people, getting more people involved.
Yeah, one of the things that I would like to say will be helpful is having more conversations like this, open and authentic, to understand how we are missing the mark with just using a word that has become so ubiquitous and at the same time watered down. So it's how do we defining these terms that we use and yet using them as arrows to shoot at people's character and saying, be that, with no real expectations, because who knows what a man is nowadays, and it can be defined so many different ways. So we need to have these conversations grounded in understanding of, in my essence, faith, so we can really understand what is a man and what is that expectations for a man. So when we tell a young boy or even a man himself, man up, we're actually giving him an area where he can target his character and his growth and his faith and be grounded in that space. Outside of that, like you said, Chris, if people don't believe in anything, believe in everything, and then everything goes, and that's when cultural relativism seeps in, and before you know it, manhood becomes watered down.
I believe in and share a lot of those same sentiments. I just feel like there's so many definitions of manhood that are floating out there right now, and people are confused. And they don't know what to believe in. So it's just we're getting dragged in so many different directions, and people just go with the popular thing. And again, I feel like I hate to keep mentioning and referencing John Morant, but that's clear example right there. I just actually think that's a big part of kind of our culture and society at the moment, and people are just lost. But I think what's key is for people like us to keep having these open conversations and really dig into it and kind of better, more so lead by example. I know
Yeah.
that's one of your lines in terms of kind of what it means to be a man. Like I think we need more people out there that are actively and boldly walking in manhood. You know, I think too many people are silent at times.
But I mean, unfortunately, he's kind of become the poster child. But I think John Morant epitomizes a lot of what's wrong in society because people without think if you get money, all that goes away. If I get money, I'm a man now.
Yeah,
You know, I can do this. I can call my own shots. Which when I hear somebody say his father can't talk to him now, you know, no, money does not mean to be disrespectful to your parents. Money does not liberate you and give you rights that just, you know, the kind of just
do what you want.
It's your family. But I think, you know, there's a baseline. A good friend of mine, his brother was a treasury agent, and I'll never forget this story. He says, hey, his brother told him, he says, you know, how they determine what counterfeit is. They don't waste their time studying counterfeit money. They just learn the real deal. They just focus on the real deal. And I think I agree with everything you said, but we have to understand there are so many different definitions of fatherhood or manhood, but there's limited characteristics. You know, there's limited characteristics of, you know, of what manhood looks like. You know, biblically speaking, there are, and that's just it. And I think we have to get back to the basics. You know, even if, you know, people say, well, I don't believe in the Bible. Yeah, there's a lot of people who did well by not believing in the Bible, but follow those principles.
Right. That's what I was
saying. So I think, so I mean, but we have to get back to instruction.
Yeah.
We don't. And I think that's the problem. When I'm talking to these young guys in the circle, man, you know, we do restorative circles. They don't have a baseline. You know, they flying by the seat of their pants. You know, more times than not, somebody in their families who's kind of been the vocal person or the spokesperson is in jail or has been in jail. You know, so you're not learning from that person. You know, a group of kids told me today, one of the guys that escaped from prison in a bigger form, and I wasn't really following. They were telling me today that, you know, when he got caught, you know, when they were interviewing before he escaped, they asked him, did you have any regrets? He said the only regret he had was he didn't wear a mask. You know, and he videotaped one of his victims. You know, but to tell you how he went back to the neighborhood he came from.
Went right back home.
So there's a correlation here, man, and to him, that's manhood. He's proud of the fact that he took lives. So I think that's the issue. We have to get back to a baseline. You know, and I'm not trying to be old-fashioned or whatever you want to call me, but if you play sports, whatever you do to be successful, there has to be a foundation. You got to get back to the foundation. You know, and I think right now there is no foundation because of your point, because you got people with personal interests defining what a man should be. You know, because I'm in a different gender, so I'm going to say this is what manhood is. You know, I'm in a different, you know, religion, so this is what I think it is, and it's not. There's commonality. There's common things about what manhood is. You know, I don't care what you are. You know, you should be taking care of your family. You know, and I'm what your family looks like. That's between you and your family. You know, you shouldn't have 20 kids by 20 different women that you're not taking care of.
Unless you care.
You know, you shouldn't be trying to settle for. You know, to me, part of it is you. We talked about it. You know, you whatever success looks like to you, there should be some sense of I don't want to be mediocre because it's generational. You know, part of being a man is you got to think with generational. You know, it's not just about you, and I think that's part of it: selflessness versus selfishness. And the issue is there's so many men, even in church, who don't understand the concept of what manhood is. Just because you join the church don't make you a man.
No, it doesn't.
Just like you said, just because a guy puts on the dress don't make him. You know, and some guys do it to prove a point, which I don't know what they kind of prove. You know, but.
That's a whole nother story.
I just think, but that's what really made me want to talk about this, because I think it's this whole subject, man, is one that's so ignored. But the consequences is so deep.
And it makes it hard to really lay down a foundation of strengthening our culture. Because, you know, as you mentioned, when nations and people would go to war, they would attack the men. But if the men don't know they're men, I ain't even going to attack you. Because you don't even know who you are.
Well, but look at and see now, and this is with me and my conspiracy theorists. I think it's done on purpose.
I
think it's when it comes to us, when it comes to people of color, that's part of systematic racism that you see is part of this division. We fight against each other. You know, so I I got black women fighting against black guys
Mhm.
over stupid stuff.
Mhm.
You know, I'm mad at you because you said I can't raise my boy. I'm mad at you
Right.
because, you know, we got churches fighting because I sing Amazing Grace in a B flat. You sing it a B minus. You know, you wear a hat. I don't wear a hat. That common knowledge, synergy. We fight so much, and that just adds to it because now we fighting about definition of man. To your point, I don't need a man. You know, you say you know you don't need a man. You know, you got pregnant. You know, and I'm not saying you got to be. You can be in a relationship with somebody and not be so dependent upon. I think that's why I think women get it confused. That's just my opinion. You know, you can still be independent, but you can still be with somebody. And biblically speaking, we were put here to be together, to be in union. So you got to, you know, so especially when I hear Christian women say that, I didn't say you need one for survival,
Right.
but he created Adam and Eve. And he said it's not good for man to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say with the exception of Sister Soldier owned 5 businesses and got 5. No, and I think we lose that. And I get independence. My wife, as you know, is probably one of the most independent people out there. But you know, there's certain things you get in a relationship. Mm-hmm. There's certain thing about having a family when you have 2 parents in a relationship. Right. You know, because you're getting 2 things from 2 different people. I'm getting something from my mom and something from my dad. And neither one, you know, they all have something that the other one can't give me.
Right. And it creates that balance. Yeah. And I'm gonna leave on this because I know we probably wrapped up on time. Father's Day is coming up.
Don't get me started on that. Oh, that's a whole other show.
You know where I'm going with this. You know I'm going with this. Right?
I've been talking about it since Mother's Day.
Throw something on the grill.
Father's Day coming up, and you know there's gonna be Hallmark always have lined up commercials. Happy Father's Day, Mom.
Yeah, that is actually going to be a thing.
Oh, it's already a thing. That's already a thing.
2 years ago.
They started 2 years ago.
Crazy.
Happy
Moms
Father's
and dads
Day,
too.
That's crazy.
Moms and dads too. That's
And I get it for you know, the single mothers and mothers who raised children by themselves did a great job and all that. No, I just have a problem with that. The more than the time that we have to talk about it, but I think that's part and parcel of why we get this confused definition of manhood. Because now, Happy Father's Day, Mom.
So you don't even need us.
You don't even need a man anymore.
Need a man anymore.
Everything that a man can do, a woman can do.
Can do too. Like survive.
Thank you, Mom, for being my dad. And it's just like, well, okay, your dad may have been shiftless. He may have been someone never in his life, and all those bad categories. But that was just, you know, that guy. That did not lump.
But
So
this is for another show. But
it is for
another show. Even with
that,
every broken relationship is not the guy's fault.
True, right?
Don't just say, I know society paints the picture. And I work with men. Every broken relationship is not dude's fault.
I mean, listen. Listen, I've been in relationships when it ain't my fault.
So but society's quick to say, what he do?
Yeah, what he do? Exactly, what he do? You know, so again, thanks for having me on the show. I know you guys.
I feel like again, that's a whole other show. We might have to bring you that.
Man, listen, I will be welcome to come back. I will welcome.
We got to do part 2.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure I'm gonna hear about this tomorrow.
Well, listen, let me put my email out there in case you want to email me about any comments. It's go to communityvoicephl@gmail.com. Again, this is Jeff Jones from Community Voice. I'm honored and pleasure to be on Above Average Black Men. I appreciate your time. So again, send me my emails, communityvoicephl@gmail.com. Anything I said that you disagree with.
Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, everybody, as always, Above Average Black Men, here to empower, inspire, uplift the community. Go like, follow, subscribe. We're on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Facebook Live, YouTube Live. Where else we at? Anywhere. Podbean. I feel like the list is forever growing, but don't be sure. Be sure to check us out. Yeah, I know. Soon to be on Apple. But thank you guys again. Take care.
Y'all not on Apple yet?
No. We'll be soon.
Okay. If you don't mind me asking, what's the reason for it not being on Apple yet?